So today's video is going to be a fairly quick one, just maybe a little chit chat. I just wanted to share with you all some of the changes that Mr. Pishposh and I were discussing as far as our reselling business and the direction that we want to go with it. I guess I'm a little bit back into my schedule. I'm slowly getting there. Like I had mentioned on the community tab, I had taken a class for my volunteer work, and that took about a week. And then the week after that, I was catching up on life and some other things. And so between the the 2 weeks, I didn't really even, I didn't list. I hardly did anything business related. I didn't make videos. You guys know that. Anyway, so I'm slowly kind of getting back into the schedule, and it's a good thing because I think there was some momentum during those weeks that I was not actively participating in the business. Our sales kind of kept going. They were doing pretty good. And I think that momentum ran out because we hit this weekend and it is dead. I haven't had such a bad eBay. I think I'm going on 4 days with no eBay sales, which is kind of crazy. So it's about time. I started listing since Friday, and so I think it's just going to take a while to kind of get the momentum going again. Hopefully that's the case. But in any case, before that kind of break that I ended up taking, Mr. Pishposh and I had a discussion about some of the changes that we wanted to make, some things that would just kind of help reduce my mental load. I think that phrase might come up a couple times in this video. And just trying to streamline things a little bit better. And I guess the point of this video is, instead of it's just a video of you guys hearing what I'm thinking and what I'm doing in my life, is just to kind of reassure everyone that it's okay to make changes in your business. So a lot of times you end up doing things the way, like you started off doing it this way, so you just kind of keep doing it that way. Or you watch resellers, or you read about other resellers, and that's how they do it. Some things they work for some people and they don't work for others. Resellers are always talking about that fact that even like types of items that sell. Some people can't sell a coffee mug to save their life. Another seller will have a whole eBay store filled with coffee mugs and sell them all the time. Right? So some things just vary by reseller and they vary by person. So certain listing styles might not fit your personality. So it's okay to change even if you think that's the way that a bunch of other resellers are doing it. So it's not even always about what's making the most money. Sometimes things have to it's quality of life and how things fit you, right? So it's okay to change things up if you just feel like things are not working for you. So I think, I've talked about it before. I've done like productivity videos where I feel like I'm just like, if I could just get this, a schedule down, if I could just do better, if I could just do this, and you end up beating yourself up over and over again, at least I do, about what you're not getting done, right? Instead of taking the time to make those couple changes that might make things easier on you, and then in the long run, more productive. It is easy to kind of just keep trudging, right? You keep doing things the way you've always done it. If you think if I could just be better, then I'll be successful, right? And we don't need to be sitting here beating ourselves up over anything. So we are going to let a lot of that go. And first of all, I'm just going to back up. Let's back up. I think I was getting ahead of myself as far as talking about the effect that it'll have on me, because you're probably wondering, what are these changes that you're going to make? So for us, I think it's basically reducing the number of not sites, but maybe stores and sites that we sell on. So the main ones, eBay is our main platform that we sell on. That is staying pretty much the same. Some stores will be just consolidated, not necessarily gotten rid of completely. My Etsy shop for sewing patterns, Pishposh Notions, not making any changes there. I've got a good workflow for that. My son, he makes my drafts, and all I have to do is go in every couple days and, launch, make my changes and then launch the listings that are ready to go. So that won't change too much. Poshmark probably won't change too much unless they kick me off. So far, so good. I'm still on that platform, but I haven't really been doing much on it lately anyway. So those are pretty much not a whole lot of change there. So on Etsy, one of the stores we had is Metal and Tweed. And this was always a Mr. Pish Posh store. Back in the day, I had a vintage store on Etsy. And then Mr. Pish Posh was like, you know what, I want to have my own store on Etsy. And so he sold things that were vintage, that were kind of geared more towards guys. A little bit of a more masculine, it doesn't mean that all his customers were men. A lot of times they were women buying gifts for their husbands or whatever, or their boyfriends. And, but it was always kind of his thing. He kind of curated it. He picked the items that would get listed there and so on and so forth. And so it's been going, and we do have sales. We have sales sporadically in that store. But what we're going to do is we're going to eventually just shut Metal and Tweed down. What I did is I took my other Etsy shop, Pish Posh Flatware, and I switched it back to Pish Posh Vintage. And so now it's just Pish Posh Vintage. It's just a general vintage site. It's not just kitchen. I had, started it up again this past year with the idea of all my flatware, vintage flatware, and vintage kitchen and all that kind of stuff was going to be just in that store on Etsy, eBay and Etsy. But I decided, then I had opened another Etsy store. That was going to be vintage clothing, right? Like men's clothing was going on Metal and Tweed. I was like, well, I have no place for the women's clothing and accessories and things like that. And so I was just like, I could open this other one. It just wasn't working. It's just not working. So I decided, let's just go back to basics, open one general vintage Etsy shop. Okay. So if you're following me, the Pish Posh Apparel was what it was called. That one Etsy shop, it was very short-lived. I had one sale like a year ago when I tried it. Had another sale like a month ago when I tried it. But we're gonna let that one go. Now, you may be wondering about Ruby Lane. Where does Ruby Lane fit into all of this? So I have made another decision to let Ruby Lane go. Now, about a year ago, it was May of last year, I made a video about the big change that Ruby Lane made as far as then they started charging a monthly fee again. They had in the past, they stopped, they were back to charging a monthly fee. It's $40, I think it's $40 or $45, 40, right? Anyway, and when the change happened, I remember I made the video and I said, you know what, I'm just gonna give it a go. It's okay, I pay a monthly fee to eBay, etc., etc. So we're just gonna see how it goes. Okay, so I gave it a try. Like I said, it's been a little bit over a year. And there's so many things I like about Ruby Lane. I've made videos about them in the past. A monthly fee, it's cost of doing business, right? It didn't bother me that much. What ended up happening with reality is like what I was talking about with the mental load, okay? So many sites, Etsy included, Ruby Lane included, eBay included. As you can see from my lack of sales this weekend, they like activity. All the algorithms seem to reward activity, adding new items, adding new items, adding new items. So my life is busy. I've got my fingers in a lot of different pies. And so since eBay is kind of our main moneymaker, when I had time, I usually focused on eBay. Now things are a little different in the summer versus the winter. Mr. Pish Posh is doing a lot of construction and things like that, carpentry this summer. So he's not listing as much. Now in the winter, he's listing and it's mostly eBay. So I'm a little freer. I know new stuff is getting put on eBay. I'm a little freer to pay attention to Ruby Lane or, things like that. So I do know like things will change by the season. But in any case, sales had slowed down quite a bit on Ruby Lane. And there's lots of different reasons. I know I was not adding as much inventory to Ruby Lane as I needed to in order to keep it going. And so the mental load comes in is like you're listing mostly on eBay, right? I'd list on eBay, I'd cross post to Posh or cross post to wherever else, Depop or something like that. And then I'd run out of time. And so every day I'd go, I got to get some stuff on Ruby Lane. I got to get some stuff on Etsy. I got to put some flatware in that shop. I got to do this. I got to do that. Right. And so you're kind of always just like beating yourself up over it. Right. At least I do. So I've decided to let a lot of things go. I can't really justify the monthly fee on Ruby Lane if I'm not hardly making any money on there. Right. So I decided to let that go. Now, my new workflow will kind of look more like this, right? So anything I'm listing, which I am focusing a lot on vintage, anything I'm listing goes onto eBay first, whether it's through Vendoo, then to eBay, or I make the listing on eBay, pull it into Vendoo. I do it both ways sometimes. And then immediately, if it's vintage, it gets cross-listed to Etsy. It doesn't matter the category, which is the beautiful thing. If it's clothing, if it's jewelry, if it's flatware, if it's kitchen, if it's wood grain alarm clock, just goes into a general Etsy vintage shop, Pish Posh Vintage. And then if it qualifies, a lot of vintage will sell on Poshmark. So many of the items can also get cross-posted to Posh. Just do that immediately. I've opened Mercari back up. That's kind of a experiment to see if it's even worth the time. At this point, it only takes a couple minutes to like cross-post something, not even, maybe a minute to cross-post something with Vendoo over to Mercari. So it's kind of more of an experiment just to kind of see if putting stuff everywhere, if we can increase, you just increase your audience a little bit, and we'll just see how that does. And so that's pretty much it. I have my Etsy pattern shop. Like I said, that's a pretty easy workflow. I can do that pretty quickly. But then like everything else that comes in, Mr. Pish Posh and I know just to put it onto eBay, and then we'll cross post it. We don't have to, in Vendoo, you can handle more than one Etsy shop, but you have to sign in and out the Etsy shops and link them up and everything. But for the most part, I can just leave it linked to this one Etsy shop, cross post. Now that Etsy shop is happy because I'm putting stuff in it on a regular basis. Poshmark should be happy because I can put stuff in there on a regular basis. Mercari, etc., right? I don't have Ruby Lane hanging over me, making me feel guilty that I'm not adding things to that. So I think that's just the point in my life I'm at right now. I just need to simplify some things down. So that being said, I do have a bit of a to-do list to make this all happen. I've kind of started, everything I've started, I switched the Etsy shop over to just the generic vintage. I did that pretty quickly. And I haven't added anything new to Ruby Lane or anything like that. Our to-do list for this, for me, basically, because Mr. Pish Posh, like I said, is busy doing construction these days, and my shipping when I have things to ship. So my to-do list is move things off of Ruby Lane. This is number one because the longer I keep Ruby Lane, the more I have to pay the monthly fee. So I have hundreds of listings on Ruby Lane, actually. Things don't sell super fast there. Some things do. Like there were things I'd listed and it would sell the next day. But I've got some stuff definitely that I will not be moving over to eBay. It's just not worth it. They didn't sell in 3 years or something on Ruby Lane. I had put them on there because I had them. I go over to eBay and look at solds and nothing's really happening, right? So those things I'm not going to spend the time to move over. Mr. Pish Posh would like to have a yard sale sometime this year. And so I think I'll just gather up a bunch of stuff and put it all out in the yard sale. So that will help as well. But that being said, I have a lot of listings, mostly jewelry, that I will move over to eBay and Etsy. And we'll see how they do, right? So that's one thing I have to do. And the process is not hard. It's kind of more tedious than anything. I can just save the pictures from my Ruby Lane listing. I can just save them to my computer. And then I create my listing wherever I'm creating it. And I just add the pictures into it and copy and paste my description. And it's really fast, right? But like I said, it's just kind of tedious. So I should do as many as I can per day of that, and then make my decisions. Anything that, I'm moving. So what you can do on Ruby Lane, if you don't want an item visible, you move it to what's called your back room. So as soon as I move it over, I'm moving it to my back room. That gives me a better idea of how many listings I have left that I need to work on. So in anything else I've decided I'm not cross-posting, I'll also move to the back room. And then, in case I change my mind, I don't want to delete the listing completely. And then when I'm all done with that, I'll be able to shut that store down and save that $40 a month. So the other shop, Metal and Tweed, and honestly, there is one other Etsy shop that Mr. Pish Posh runs, and that's just been for a couple months again. He was working on a lot of that hardware that he had gotten listed, so he opened up one of our vintage hardware shops again that we had on Etsy and made a few sales on it. But same thing, whenever we have some hardware, we'll just put it in the main vintage shop and just make a category, a little shop section for vintage hardware. Anyway, so both of those shops, for now, we're just leaving them. We're not adding anything to them, but if something sells from them, fine. It's great. We've had a couple sales on Metal and Tweed in the last week or so. So that's less things that we have to move over. So it's not like we put it on vacation mode or anything like that. Now, when I'm done with shutting down the Ruby Lane shop, I will probably start working on Metal and Tweed. And that's easy because the items had originally gone into Metal and Tweed via Vendu. And so all I have to do is delist them and then switch the store that it's linked to on Vendu and just relist them again into Etsy. So easy peasy. That won't take long. My other to-do list, item on my to-do list, is to keep listing. Because as you know, it's yard sale season. So I've been bringing home the vintage. And, I just got to keep pounding away at it, especially since Mr. Pish Posh doesn't have a lot of time to do that right now. So one more thing that I thought I would talk about that Mr. Pish Posh and I talked about before, this 2-week break. And we decided to just put it off for a little while, but I'll get to it soon. One more thing that we were talking about is maybe using Whatnot again. So I don't know if some of you actually, I know, came to that Whatnot show, but I kind of had done it a little bit under the radar, and I was just testing out Whatnot. So at first I was like, do I want to be a Whatnot seller? So many resellers have kind of switched over. The majority of their sales are on Whatnot these days. But so I was like, do I really want to do this? Because I do know Whatnot requires a certain amount of energy, right? It requires consistency. But we really got talking about it, and we were like, you know what? Sometimes the issue with reselling is cash flow, okay? And it can be a way, if we do it correctly, and if it seems like it's working for us, then there'll be a certain amount of cash flow that we know we can expect. And I know it's going to take a while to build up. What I thought I would do, the show I did before was sewing patterns. So it was my first show. It was sewing patterns, and I made like $50 or something like that. But, it was just patterns that I was just trying to move, just move quickly. I think I had $1 starts or $2 starts on most of the patterns I listed. Now, if you remember a yard sale day that I did recently, I ended up bringing home those 2 big drawers of patterns. So I was like, you know what, that's perfect. It's the perfect kind of thing for Whatnot, because a lot of them ended up being either doll clothing pattern or kids. And I don't usually put a lot of those on in my main store. And they're not worth a ton. So I was either going to lot them up, or I was going to, probably just lot them up. So I was talking to Mr. Pishposh, and I was like, I could just start, just kind of get my feet wet again. Start with kids patterns or doll patterns, and just, have a show. I think it's good if you can do it consistently, at least once a week, if not more. But be consistent so people know kind of to follow you, and they know that, you're going to have more and more. So if patterns work out, and I thought patterns would be a great thing because I've got so many patterns. It's one of those things that I ended up buying lots. And so sometimes I'm just cherry picking certain ones to put in the website, on Etsy. And so there's other patterns that are good, but they might not be worth my time necessarily to list individually, right? Especially paying my son. Patterns might be a good one to start with, and then just see how it's going and maybe branch out from there. Because I have the same situation with vintage costume jewelry. I can work on listing it, individually. But there are some things that are really cool, but they're just, I'm going to get $5 for them on eBay or something like that. And I just, it would be faster on a Whatnot show to just hold it up, get a couple bucks for it. Maybe a person buys more than one thing. But anyway, I don't have info for you right at the moment as far as when our first show would be or anything like that. But down in the description, I will put my Whatnot link. And I'm pretty sure if you sign up through my link, you'll get a certain amount to spend, maybe $15 or so to spend. And you don't have to spend it in my shop, in my show. You can spend it anywhere you want. Anyway, then you could also follow my account on there, and you can get notification when I'm about to do a show. And then I'll try, once I figured out what I'm doing, when I'm going to do one, I'll either put a notification in the community section here, like a community post, or I'll try to put it in a video or something once I know what I'm doing. But hopefully we'll get to that pretty soon. Like I said, I'm just kind of trying to catch up on some stuff right now, kind of get back into my listing flow and everything. So I hope that was helpful and not just a 20-minute video of me rambling about my life. I mean, that's basically what YouTube is all about, right? But yeah, don't be afraid to change things up. You can always change things back. I've been playing around with different things, with promotions, with offers, with ending listings. You just kind of try different things, and see what works. And so, it's okay to make a change. Sometimes we get stuck in a rut doing things the way that we've always done them, and the world changes, platforms change, things like that. So do what works for you is what I'm saying. So I'm excited about that. It does help my brain immensely already to just kind of have a focus. Here's an item. Oh, it's going on eBay. Oh, it's going on Etsy, right? It's which shop, where is this going to go? What's the best place, right? I just eliminated all that for myself. So speaking of which, I do need to go list some things. And so I'll finish this little ramble. But I hope you guys are doing great. I have missed interacting with you guys. And so I think I will have, after this video, we'll have another What Sold video and some other fun stuff coming up. So Like I said, I hope you guys are doing great with your reselling business. Feel free to, leave any comment down below about your workflow, what works for you, things like that, and any suggestions that you have. And I will talk to you soon.